How we doing, class? Sit down, get ready. We got a lesson coming your way. Today we are talking about the animals section, in particular the treatment of animals and the comparison of the treatment of animals to the treatment of humans. Starting off on that note, everyone has or should have pre-standing beliefs on this topic, right? It's a little controversial. That's why I picked it. First off, first point, first vocab word is sentient. What's sentient mean? The ability to sense experiences, pain and pleasure. Yes, we have that, and we share that with animals. They have a similar nervous system to us, and they have complex brains, meaning they form experiences, meaning they remember harsh events, they remember good events, so on and so forth. I've got a couple facts for you. Warning, viewer discretion is advised. So, in the United States in 2015, 9.2 billion animals were slaughtered. That's just in the United States. Look at that ratio. 350 million people live in the US, 9.2 billion animals. That's roughly 200 pounds of meat per person. Think on a worldwide scale now. 7.2 billion people, and we all know how big a 1 million is from 1 billion. That is an insane number. And I eat plenty of meat. I'm eating pretty good. I'm no vegetarian, but this is crazy to me. So, second vocab word we are going to talk about is a good old factory farm. What's a factory farm? A large farm designed to maximize meat production. In saying so, chickens, right? Typical farm animal. Let's talk chickens and pigs. Chickens are kept in battery cages. What's a battery cage? A battery cage is a cage the size of this paper. Imagine a whole chicken is living in this. They can't spread their wings. They can't turn around. It's horrible. And I learned through this research that to keep chickens from pecking from each other, farmers take a hot blade and they de-beak them. Keep the violence at a low. Very cruel. Pigs live in gestation crates. What is a gestation crate? Very similar to the battery cage. A cage just big enough to keep the pig inside it. Can't turn around. There's holes in the floor to keep the manure flowing. Real bad. Real rough. That's just the way it is. And that's where vegetarians and vegans come into play. That's where their view starts, right? It's not about eating meat. Oh, I don't like meat. It's about the treatment of animals that goes into it. Okay, next we're going to move into the arguments. There's probably 10 arguments in this section. Gonna have to bear with me on that. It's a little brutal, but we'll get through it. All right. First one, and I think we've all read these in the textbook. They're it states something else, and then brings it back up top towards it. We're just going to start. We're going to go right into it. Animals kill other animals. An animal kills an animal. Then it is okay for humans to kill an animal. Animals do kill animals. It is morally okay for humans to kill animals. And I don't know if I agree or disagree here. That's just somewhat food for thought. I agree based off of simple survival in the food chain. If we take it to way back and we have the opportunity to live by killing animals, so be it. Animals don't have the choice to kill one another. They don't think, a lion doesn't think, I'm going to go slaughter a hyena today because I want that over a gazelle. No. It doesn't work like that. It's survival of the fittest. They just do it. But humans do have the choice here. We aren't strictly carnivores. We aren't strictly herbivores. We have the choice to kill that animal, and we do. We would be 100% okay if we were just herbivores, but we do make the choice to still kill that animal. And I'm eating ribs, burgers, whatever it is, and this is really touching. Next argument we're getting into, let's call it the power argument. We're powerful enough to control an animal's behavior, right? Everyone knows it. Doggy, sit, come here, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the factory farms, that's a whole nother ball game. We have the ability to control their lives, right? We want to end their lives, so be it. Slaughterhouse. It's dark, but dark subject. So we are powerful enough to control an animal's behavior, and we can exercise that right. We can control an animal and all of its conditions that go into it. And we are morally allowed to do this. And although that's true, that's as true as it gets, that's dark. That's a real dark thought. Just because we have an ability doesn't mean that we have the morals to constantly do so. And as I say do so, we're referring to bending an animal's will here, right? You think any animal in their right mind wants to be stuck in a frickin', excuse the expression, gestation cage or a battery cage? No, humans choose that for them, and they end up knowing nothing better. Here's a real dark thought. Compare that to slavery way back when, right? One person has the power, one person doesn't. And one still makes the choice for the other. Having the power is one thing. The other is having the morality to use it. All right, moving on. The next argument, let's think lab animals. Let's think farm animals. This argument is called dependency. If animals depend on humans to exist, humans have the right to treat those animals in any way that may benefit humans, right? Let's think about that for a second. Animals in captivity within a farm or a lab therefore depend on humans to live. So if you look at that, yeah. Therefore, humans have the right to treat the animals in any way that may benefit the humans. That's a very valid argument. That's a lot of folks might not like hearing that, but that's very true. Animals don't exist. Animals do exist without humans, right? Everyone knows that. It's how it happens in the wild. If not taken from their birthplace or their mothers. You just don't get an animal. You have to take an animal or you have to breed an animal. A baby needs its mother, right? Let's look at it this way. Baby needs its mother. Does a mother have a right to experiment or kill a baby? Right? It's the same. That's the same cycle as this lab and farm animal argument. And that's really crazy to think about. Let's move on here. Next argument is hypocrisy. And this is going to get into vegetarians and vegans. I really don't like the way a lot of these things are stated, but we're just going to roll with it. Hypocrisy. This basically questions the treatments of animals, and those who act in morally inconsistent ways are hypocrites and therefore flawed. Right? It sounds very offensive, sounds very direct, but it says ethical vegetarians and vegans, they act in inconsistent ways, which, yeah, they're different from most of the population, but they may have a point for doing what they want to do. This argument basically states that ethical vegetarians and vegans are therefore hypocrites. And I don't really know if I agree with this or disagree with this. Clearly they've got a reason for having their beliefs. And this argument is critiquing them, basically calling them hypocrites and inconsistent. So I have no comment. That simply comes down to your morals and your objectives and just how you view the topic. Moving on from that one. Emotional attachment. I would say that having an emotional attachment with an animal is one of the best feelings that a person can go through, right? Most people have dogs, most people have cats, and you can be home alone, you can be talking to the cat for 45 minutes. That might just be me, but that's the way it is. So going into this argument, once again called the emotional attachment argument. If our attachment is greater to humans than non-humans, then we are morally allowed to harm animals in the benefit of humans, right? In saying that, we do feel greater attachments to humans than animals, depending on the day. And therefore, we are morally allowed to use animals in the benefits of humans. And that's unfortunately the foundation of where a lot of this meat production comes from. Further, benefiting humans, just using resources. And if that comes down to the suffering of animals, then I don't think a lot of people care about that. But at the same time, a lot of people do. That hits a bad note with a lot of folks. We're going to move on. We're going to keep it moving here. Actually, one more comment. This comes down to your attachment to pets and your possible dislike of humans around you. And so be it. People like pets. Some people don't like people. Other people really like people. Up for grabs. That's why it's an argument. All right. Moving on. This is called the right argument. Having rights. Not the correct, but possessing rights. So, humans have moral rights. I think everyone can agree with this. Animals lack moral rights. Animals may have rights, but moral rights, they don't, unfortunately. In saying this, those with moral rights are morally permitted to treat those lacking rights in a way. All right, sorry, got cut off there. We were talking about the right argument, and I was basically stating that those with moral rights, aka humans, are permitted to treat those lacking moral rights in any way that is viewed as benefiting humans. But let's think about this. Does that apply to babies, toddlers, maybe mentally ill? That's really something to think about. When you think of if your moral rights are jeopardized, does one living being have more moral rights than another? Food for thought. That's the right argument. Moving on, this is the most controversial argument within this whole chapter of animals. It begins to talk about marginal humans, which basically is really controversial. And it states it right in the book. It's like, I do not like the way this is phrased. Here are my reasonings. So we're just going to go into it. No filter. So be it. All right. Argument 1. It is immoral to kill and eat marginal humans, to painfully experiment on them, if it is immoral to treat non-human animals this way. Right? Let's think on that for a second. It is almost always immoral to kill and eat marginal humans and to painfully experiment on them. Follow-up point. It is almost always immoral to kill and eat animals and to painfully experiment on them. And when they're referring to marginal humans here, they're talking about babies, they're talking about mentally ill, they're talking about maybe old folks that are not all there upstairs, you know what I'm saying? It's a painful topic, and I don't even know why it's a topic to begin with, because no one's eating humans, at least what I'm seeing. So I really thought on that topic for a while, and I disagree, but I see where they're coming from, right? If it's immoral to kill and eat marginal people, they're comparing the marginal folks to non-human animals, which is your typical animals that you would eat and consume. So It's just something to think on. So, in saying all this, you might have to rewatch to really get the point across here, or not. It's not really up to me. My primary source doc that was at the end of the chapter is by a man named Peter Singer, and he talks about these marginal humans. He says, yes, it is immoral to experiment on marginal humans. Therefore, if they have lost their abilities of normal humans, it is also immoral to experiment or kill an animal. That's really, you can get going on that pretty quickly. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps up my lesson here. I appreciate you joining in. This is a complex topic, and that'll do it. Thanks for showing up to class. I'll see you around.